Good morning, farming friends. Welcome back to another episode on Grizzly Bear Sims and our Grizzly Bear Farms here on Stevie's Goldcrest Edit. Thank you so much for returning. I was telling you a few weeks ago about the fact that my middle son, who is into this game, this farming game, I finally managed to basically convince him that if he would go out daily and just pick up the eggs from the chickens area back here and just place them in that basket, that would really be of benefit to us. And so he's really been trying to do that, and I can see that he managed to get that done yesterday. It is, as they say, bright and early. Well, maybe not so bright, but it is early. It's just before 6 a.m. And let's see if the boys have arrived. And I see that they have. So um, they have already sort of queued up the vehicles for today. I asked Billy Bob to make sure he attached the Challenger up to our tipper there, because as we have been planning to do for what appears or what seems to be like such a long, long time in our efforts of trying to get a map to a point to where that we could actually cut some corn into chaff. Well, we finally got here. We finally made it. Just to bring up our map here and come up around our growth, our three cornfields, 12, 14, and 15, are at the final stage of growth, green, dark green. So if I am understanding correctly, if my if I've got my brain wrapped around the whole process with the growth cycles and new functionality within Farming Sim 17, that tells us that we should be able to cut this corn at this particular stage, in its final growth stage, and we'd be able to do that with our forage harvester here. So really, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'll just move this over there for the guys, because that's kind of how we have to do things around here. And they've already fueled everything up, and as I pointed out, it's early. It's just before 6 a.m. We wanted to get a good start on it today. Not real sure how much of this corn we're going to cut. We're going to just start with field number 12, which is the largest of the three cornfields that we have planted, and just kind of go from there and see how far we get. Um, if if this one field, I have no idea how many acres this particular field is, but if this fills the silage bunker up there with the cows, then that's probably where we'll stop as far as cutting corn into chaff. We'll let the rest of it um, grow for another through its remaining growth cycle, and then go ahead and harvest that for grain, which obviously we'll be able to use a portion of that here on our farm, as well as sell if we have enough left over. Of course, we have to obviously think about, we're in day 4, game day 4, which is early summer. If you look up in the upper right hand corner, that's what our SOB mod is telling us, and so that's what we're in. We're basically in the fourth day. So this would be what, July? Yeah, July. Um, so again, first day of summer falls in late June, around the 20th or 21st, something like that. Um, and so here we are in July. So we better get going. So I'm going to go ahead and hire a worker for this. Of course, he's not going to move until we bring the tipper up here. Let me just make sure he's hired. He is. And we will just bounce down and grab our Challenger. Here we are. And I thought I would use this tractor today. Of course, this is probably going to be a good plowing tractor, but you know, we've got a little bit of a grade here with this hill going up to the dairy area, and this Challenger will basically slice through this hill like a hot knife going through butter compared to the other vehicles that we have. But yeah, this Challenger, this is nice. I don't know if this particular tractor is common here in the U.S. I know that the Challenger is probably on a small scale is seen in different parts around the world. And let's just get lined up here, and hopefully he will just see us and he will start going. And looks like he is. And here we go. Here's our first harvest. First harvest of playing Farm Sim 17 with a seasonal approach to things. And we'll just see how we do. 17, 18, 19, 20%, and we're maybe not even halfway through the first cut. So it looks like we're going to be getting quite a bit of chaff out of this field. We did manage to achieve all 3 levels of fertilization for this field. Well, for all of our corn fields. Well, we achieved that for all of our fields. But what I'm saying is that at this particular point, day 4, this is the first crop that we've had that's matured enough to harvest. And of course, we're harvesting this one day before it would be able to be harvested for grain use, regular corn use. But yeah, we did achieve all 3 levels of fertilization. The only thing that we did not do prior to planting any of our fields was plow. Plowing needs to be done, and we will do that as we turn the fields back over and prepare them for whatever we're going to do with them next. We will plow. We'll get one of the guys to do that for us, because they do a pretty good job. And looks like I am stuck on that stop sign. Come on. Already made my first error of the day. Can we pull off of it? There we go. On the default map, that sign would have just fallen over, and the street department, highway department could have come along and put it back on. Okay, getting a little bit of lag there. Can't seem to get my camera set appropriately so I can see squarely behind the tipper and the Challenger. So it looks like we're going to get 100% after basically 1 and I don't know, maybe quarter passes. That's pretty impressive. I think we're probably going to be able to fill this bunker up, maybe just with this field. I'm not sure what the capacity is. We'll find out here momentarily when we get over there. But yeah, it's looking pretty good that we're getting a good yield off this, and that's much needed, because I tell you, we had to go yesterday. Had to send the boys down to purchase some silage bales, and you'll see them laying on their side right there at the storage shed. Looks like little white marshmallows. Had to go down and purchase those because we needed silage. We needed to got to keep our cows at a good level of production, because that's all part of our income plan at this particular point in time. Let me just pull up F1. Yeah, we're gonna have to unload anywhere for this, so we will do that and then slowly start driving, because we don't want to let this stuff pile up in a big pile if we can avoid it. And let's see, 47,000 liters. I have no idea what the capacity is. Maybe we have to jump out to see that. Nope, that doesn't work either. So I thought that it would show you that, but that's okay. That's not a problem. We'll find out. It's more than. It's definitely going to be more than just 47,000. I think if I remember correctly, a lot of these clamps of that size are somewhere in the neighborhood of like, I don't know, maybe 700,000 liters, something like that. I suppose it's however Stevie has it set up on the map, but regardless, it'll be fine either way. I forgot that you've got to manually close the back there with tip anywhere. And we'll just spin around and get going again. This task is obviously a lot more simplified with the addition of courseplay. So if we're thinking back to FS15 days, which I try not to do, especially in thinking about courseplay, but this job was simplified with courseplay simply because you could automate the entire thing and just set it up and go do something else if you wanted to, or go do another task on the farm, is what I'm talking about. Or sort of the way that I would do it with courseplay, and especially the way I did it with Paradise Hills. Let me get a drink of coffee here. Yeah, the way I did it with Paradise Hills was I functioned as a forage harvester driver, and then I had two tractor tipper drivers that was doing nothing but running the tractors and tippers back and forth, and that worked perfectly, because your productivity at that point, as far as the gameplay and everything, was 100%. You were always moving, and so it made the effort of harvesting the corn, or cutting the corn, much quicker, because there was no stoppage. By the time the tipper and tractor made it back from from the silage bunker. Then the other one was, finishing filling up, and rinse and repeat, and it worked out. It worked out really well. And we're full again. So but until we have that functionality, this is as good as we can get for single player. I mean, the AI can't operate or can't perform these tasks, and there's no way of making them do that until courseplay is available. So we just will have to do with what we have, and we'll make the best out of it. And I'm glad to see that at least one of the guys mucked out the dairy cows, so fed them this morning. I asked them to start this morning at 5:30, and I'm very impressed with the amount of work that they've managed to do, getting all the vehicles set up, and getting the cows and everybody attended to, because again, sort of in this model where we're doing a lot more farming to support the animals than we are for selling of the grains. Now we've got quite a bit of wheat and quite a bit of barley planted, and we also have a lot of soybean planted. And of course, the wheat and barley, the product that we really need off of that is the straw. As I drive erratically, trying to reach over and do Control I. So we need the straw, because we've also been buying straw bales as well to support our animal operations up to the point to where that we can start making it ourselves. And of course we'll use some of that for well, I haven't made the decision yet as to whether or not we're going to use any of those items for pig food, or if we will just buy pig food from the profits of selling those crops. The thing that I wish that the game would incorporate is the ability to mix the pig food ourselves. What I mean by that is, I think it's somewhat, I'm not going to get hung on that sign again, I'm not going to do it. I think it's somewhat counterproductive in a sense. I think it's somewhat counterproductive to have to drive individual tipper loads of the various items which make up the pig feed to wherever the pigs live. I would think that if I were a farmer, like I am here in this virtual world, but in the real world, and I had things like, and I wanted to make up a mixture of pig food, so I'd want to put in some a root crop, either potatoes or sugar beet, whatever I had available or had an abundance of. I'd want to put in a grain like a wheat or a barley. I'd want to put in another item like soybeans or canola, I think is the other ingredient to that. Since they're all going together to form pig food, I would just put those all in the same tipper and drive a load up there and dump it. the way in which the game plays, it doesn't really provide us any justification for having to make, 4 loads, um, 4 different trips, hauling 4 different things, if that's what the ratio is. I can't remember. And we're full again. It doesn't really justify doing that. So while the pig food is expensive, because it's already pre-made and because I can just buy in bulk the pig food, and I can quickly dump those into as I'm using the IT runner skip, which holds about 20,000 liters or so of this magical food for pigs. I can just dump that in there and then drive up once and dump it, and I'm good for 6 days. So we'll see. I don't know. I like to think that we kind of do things I wanted to see what our compaction looks like at 9. I kind of like to do things because, that's sort of the way that it would be done in the real world. And of course, one could argue and say, okay, well, in the real world, a farmer would just haul a load of potatoes up there and feed his pigs and not worry about it. And but one of those items, I think, has very low, only needs like a very small percentage, and so you really don't know what that amount is. So you fill up a tipper, then it takes like a split second to provide them all that they need for 6 days, and you got to go back and you've got to dump that, and then you've got to get the next item. So I don't know. And I know the cows are somewhat like that, but those items are pretty much all going to be central to the farm. In the storage sheds that are right at right there where the silage bales are parked, I'm going to put straw in one side, hay in the other, and then obviously we're going to have our silage in the clamp. And so we're going to be able to mix our food, our food for our dairy cows right there on the spot with the mixing wagon, and then be able to deliver directly to the cows. Here's where the pigs live to our left, and then all the way down there is our silo. So it's not as convenient. Of course, I could create piles, I suppose, and place that material closer, but I don't know. Just kind of thinking through. Maybe somebody will create a mod, like a mixing wagon type mod, that will allow for adding in, the amounts of material that you need: potatoes, sugar beets, or wheat, barley, etc., canola, sunflowers, soybeans, whatever the mixture is, and then haul it up and feed. There was a mod that I was looking at, and at first I was really excited about it because I thought, okay, this makes pig food, and it's called CCM, and I believe it's corncob mix. And what the mod actually does versus what I thought it does is it basically simulates, and I'm too close to him. The AI, I'm gonna switch thoughts here for a moment. The AI is a lot more picky in 17 about the proximity that you get to them than they were in 15. So even though I'm not touching him at all, if I get just a smidge closer to him, he thinks that I'm blocking him when actually I'm not. But anyway, CCM, corncob mix. What it actually does versus what I thought it did is it basically allows you, with a special auger wagon, it allows you to harvest the corn, and it demonstrates, it's a white it's a white color texture that comes off the harvester, and it's basically simulating the entire bit of the corn, including the corn cob itself. Hence why its name is corn cob mix. And so it's a little bit whiter to take in that that texture, that additional texture of what you would see if you also harvested the cob itself, ground the cob up, which is more white in nature than the yellow corn pieces. So, and also what the mod does is it allows for that mix to be put into a silage clamp and then be fermented, but it's just still corn. So from a reality perspective, you could go through all that work, but you still got to add all the other materials to that make up the total mixed pig food. Just gonna finish my coffee there. And then switch my coffee mug for a glass of water. So yeah, I could see where all that would be worth it if the end result was actually considered the same as pig food, and you could feed that to the pigs, and that would represent 100%. That would give them 100% productivity. But it's not. It's really just corn. There's no different from taking a tipper and grabbing corn and giving it to the pigs. Okay, we're almost at 200,000. Closing the back door. So I'm not gonna make you watch this process of me harvesting all of this corn from this field. I figured that since I had thoughts in my head that I could discuss, that I would just let this process go. But I think what I'll probably do next is go ahead and just be quiet and record the rest of this field, and then I'll speed time up and give you something to listen to for a minute or two while it takes for this process to time elapse, and then when we come back together, this field will be done, and then we can sort of take a look at where we are from a perspective of capacity and where we think we need to be. I have no idea. I'm sort of taking a seasonal approach. One of the main goals about this was, can we sustain our livestock, so our cows, our pigs, and our sheep, from materials that we will harvest throughout the year. So can we sustain them from the point that we've harvested the material, so we have the chaff once it ferments and becomes silage, and then the straw from the wheat and barley crops, and then obviously cutting more grass and baling that into hay. Can we sustain with that inventory through the late fall, through the winter, through the next spring? Because obviously we're not going to plant corn again until sometime around early spring. Okay, so that's like day 10. That's about day 10 or so. Can we do that? Because obviously that's sort of how it would be done in real life, is they would, they're going to bale hay, they're going to bale straw, they're going to produce silage, and then there's not going to be any of that for maybe half the year until the next harvests come in. So obviously the goal is, can we do that? Can we replicate that? I think the bigger goal is can I drive without him thinking that I'm running into him or causing a problem? And I think the answer to that question is I don't know if I can or not, because but anyway, can that be done? So it's sort of a test of our abilities, our planning abilities. Now the flip side of that is obviously we want to have enough to make it through those time periods, but we also don't want to have an overabundance, because we're going to need, come a year from now, when it's time to cut a field of corn for more chaff, we're going to want that silage bunker empty. And of course, there's two ways of accomplishing that. I mean, we can move it. We can move that material once it gets to a sizable, small enough portion. We can move it. I think we can even store it down in our grain silo. I think that I managed to dump some grass down there yesterday, just testing it to see if it would take grass, and it did. So it may also take silage. More than likely it does, knowing Stevie. So we could always, take this material, the abundance of that material, come, late spring, like the day before we're getting ready to harvest corn, and move that down. Maybe by that point in time, of course, play is available. We'll have one of the guys do it. We'll see. I think what we're going to need to do here in just a few minutes is probably grab that silage blade and run over it just a few times to get it sort of flattened out. I will be honest and tell you all that that silage blade is not something that I'm very good at. I did a test map some time ago and played around with that in silage, and this was back before the 1.3 release of 17, when the silage still sort of oozed through the bottom of the concrete bunker partitions and just made a real big mess. And so we'll see. But anyway, we don't want to end the, we don't want to come around to this point next year, which would be around game day, 13, 14, 15, something like that, and have a huge amount of straw and hay and silage. Likewise, we don't want to reach day 10 or 11 where it's still spring, and while we've got the crops planted, nothing is available for harvest yet, and we've scooped the last scoop and and shredded the last bell. There's a happy medium to all of this, and unfortunately, at this particular point in my understanding of all of this, I don't know what that happy medium is. I don't know yet what those ratios are. All I can really do is just sort of judge, accumulate as much as I possibly can, and then basically go from there, and sort of take notes and say, okay, well, if we have a huge amount of silage left, then obviously we don't need to store as much. Of course, this is all that's a moving scale as well, because right now I think we have about 105 cows, which means that we have had added a new cow, maybe 1.25 cows for each day that we've played the game. We started with 100. Now we're in day 4. We've got 105, I think. So obviously, the ratios and the mixtures and all of that kind of stuff is sort of based on 100 cows and how much they'll truly consume. So it's all going to be sort of learning and engaging from experience learned, because that's what we're doing here, is we're just sort of figuring all this out and having fun while we're doing it. I mean, mind you, that's important. Of course, we could also sell. We could also sell if we have hay and straw left over, and if we have silage left over, we can always store that material. But then likewise, we can always sell it. And unfortunately, maybe this is part of that undiagnosed OCD or whatever that I might have that I don't know about. But I think in my mind, when it comes time to harvest more, or to harvest and accumulate more of this material, more chaff for silage, more straw and hay for bales, that I'm going to want to rotate that product. So in other words, get the old, make sure the old product is either used up first or it's sold, to make room before the new stuff comes in. And of course, the default gain, there's no hay and straw and such doesn't go off. That was all done in 15 with there was a mod, I can't think of the name of it right now, but there was a mod that basically aged the straw and hay, and looks like I've high centered, so I need to fix this problem. All right, so we are back, and I had to reset the Challenger and the tipper trailer here to get off that high center. You know, I've got to say, I'm gonna complain just a little bit here, and it's not. Perhaps my expectation of how things worked in FS15 versus how they worked in the real world, perhaps that is severely skewed. And I'm all for progress to be made in the area of higher degree of realism. But I personally think, and I'll confirm this probably after I fill up this tipper, and then we'll go up and hook the blade up to the back of the Challenger and try to flatten that out just a little bit. But I think that Giants has sort of maybe taken a small step backwards. You know, they've taken so many steps forwards. They've taken a huge leap forward in many aspects of the gameplay. Improvements over 17 or over 15 is what I'm talking about. But they've taken some small steps backwards as well. And one of those, I think, is in sort of the silage process as it relates to the game. And now, again, I'm all for higher degrees of realism in the gameplay. After all, it's a simulation. It's not an arcade game. So if you're gonna call something a simulation, you want to make it as true to life as potentially possible, as is possible from, you know, the coding of the game and the gameplay and all of that stuff put together. But I think that they've kind of made the whole silage process worse than it was in 15, because while it might be possible that you wouldn't drive over the chaff the way that I'm doing it to put it into the bunker, most of the bunkers that I've seen on like real life farming videos are not necessarily pull-throughs. They're sort of like either under sheds. I've seen some farming videos from the UK where they're backing up their tippers to like a covered shed type or a barn kind of thing and dumping it, and then they're using wheel loaders and other tractors and stuff to push the material up and pack it in. And that was kind of, I think, what was replicated on the British farm style map, if you remember, or maybe don't remember, because I don't know if I ever put that video up on YouTube or not. But those silage bunkers were kind of that way. But the issue is that the way that you, because of the issues with 1.2, when you tried to use the blade to move the material around, more of it is, quite a bit of it is oozing out through the bottom of the concrete bunker. So just the entire process of the compaction and everything is just a little bit odd. So I don't know, I can't hook the front, I can't connect to the front of this guy. So we'll see if I'm going to be able to do this driving him backwards. This may be a futile effort. I don't know. Alright, it's the gas pedal. Anyway, it's the effort of this whole compaction and moving this stuff around that is just, in my opinion, something's still not right with it as far as the game is concerned. And as a result, it just sort of makes it kind of a challenge. And I don't disagree with challenges. After all, we are driving a Challenger. But at the same time, let me get in the cab and do this for a bit. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know. It's made it a little bit more difficult for gameplay, and I don't know how you bridge that gap between realism and the game's ability to be able to do this. I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense in what I'm babbling on about here, but in 15 you didn't have a problem with getting stuck. I mean, you could dump it all in one spot and still pretty much drive any tractor on top of it that you needed to. And let's push some of this back from this direction. And you didn't have a problem. Again, I'm not complaining because it's more difficult. I'm complaining because it's more difficult, and I still don't necessarily think that it's really all that lifelike, based on what I've seen on videos and such. But at least it's not oozing through the sides of the bunker, and I believe that Stevie did something, because I saw some messages from him on Facebook. I believe that he did something that made that a little bit better for this particular map, because I know that I think he had mentioned that he had even heard that people were still having the problem even after Giants released 1.3, and then he did something that made it better. So I don't know what that was. Stevie has magic tools and magic ideas and stuff, and so there's, he probably just looked at it and worked on it, because as focused as he is on things, he probably just did the remaining amount of coding that Giants missed or didn't do or whatever, and made it all work. So I don't know if I made any sense with what I was saying, but I think there's a fine line between what we can accomplish in the game from a simulation perspective, and then there's reality. And I think that as much as I want reality, I also understand the limitations, and I think that based on what I'm just trying to say, I think that there's still some challenges between what we had in 15 versus kind of what we've got now, and so we'll just see how it all works out here. All right. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm going to just harvest the rest of this field, and then I will time lapse through that with some music for you to listen to, and then come back at the end of that process and close out the episode. Okay. See you in a few minutes. All right, well, welcome back. All right, well, welcome back. What a, boy, I tell you, what a nightmare. Yeah, this kind of strengthens the whole idea that I shared with you before I went into time lapse about the fact that, you know, there is this very fine line between what we can do for reality's sake to make things look more realistic or behave more realistic, and what is achievable in the actual gameplay. And I think that with, at least with silage, with the silage process, we have I think we have achieved surpassing that thin line, that fine line. What a cluster. So we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 and something thousand liters of chaff that we managed to get off this field 12. And I had quite a few problems that resulted in having to reset the Challenger and the tipper trailer a couple of different times. One time I reset it and completely locked the game up. Thankfully, I run autosave, which autosaves your progress, your gameplay, and everything every 5 minutes. That's that slight lag that you see every 5 minutes or so when it's doing its save. Thankfully, I had that enabled and turned on. I almost switched that off because I have, I think, only really experienced ever one game crash, and that was quite a few weeks ago, maybe like in the first week of after 17 came out, and it's been very stable, and I think it still is stable. I think there was just, the game didn't lock up, and it didn't get the error message, Giants has stopped responding or anything like that. It just, I don't know, I think I was stuck on, I think me, the player, when I reset the tractor and reset the tipper, I think I got stuck on the wall, on the silage clamp wall, for whatever reason. I could still hear the birds, the cows were walking around, and everything was fine, but I just couldn't do anything. So thankfully, we're done with cutting corn, and this is the only field that we're going to cut because we've got an abundance of chaff. But here's a secondary problem is, and this is again going back towards what I was talking about with the whole fine line of reality and whatnot. So with with 15, you could just drive on the silage, dump it out. It would compact it kind of as you went along, and And even like when I was doing course play with silage, I would create my routes, like in the BGA, for example, I would create my routes where they kind of doubled back on the clamp itself. Like right before the tractor and the tipper exited the BGA, it would come back around and it would drive on top of the first bunker. And then whenever it was all done, it really only resulted, or really only needed maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes of compaction to get it to 100%. So the sort of the challenge is, let me just back up here and see if we can see what we've got here. So yeah, almost 700,000 liters, 685,000 liters of chaff. It's almost 40% compacted. So part of the challenge that I ran into, ended up going down and grabbing one of my other tractors and connecting it up to the blade, because I'm not really good enough at driving this Challenger backwards, and since the seat doesn't rotate around to drive it backwards, I was just making a bigger mess out of it. But let me just very quickly jump into this Fendt, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. And again, I think this is that fine line towards reality and what we can expect from gameplay and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, as you can sort of tell, we've got peaks and valleys in this silage, and it just sort of gets worse because I can't drive. It sort of gets worse because when you approach it with this blade, and we come up, and obviously we're pushing, but then, you know, the blade's up in the air, so it's not doing anything. And then all of a sudden you come back and the tractor dips down. Well, the blade's now down in the chaff, so it's now scooping. Well, it didn't do it so bad that time, because I've got the blade raised up, but if I had the blade down, it would basically create another big sort of hollow area, and it looks like I've got this tractor stuck now. So it's just a little bit of a kerfuffle, really. So I'm gonna look and see if there is a, there we go, I got it that time. See if there is the other thing that I can't understand for the life of me, why Giants can't figure this out, is why when you go backwards, why it can't move the chaff as well. I mean, it's a blade. It would push and it would pull as you went along. But see how these highs and these lows, this tractor dips down, and it creates another mess where there maybe wasn't one to begin with. And I'm sure it's just all about just, you know, doing it over and over and over. But you know something, my definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So thankfully for now, this should be more than enough silage once it ferments for what we need, at least for this year, hopefully. And see how it's creating another valley there. You know, it seems to, it fixes one area, but then it causes a problem in the other, and now I'm stuck again. And I really don't think that any of these tractors, especially that Challenger, in real life, and of course I'm now hung up on the concrete barrier there, but I don't think that any of these Challengers, again, especially the Challenger, would have a problem and would get stuck in this. But then again, I don't know. I don't drive a tractor for a living. I do IT work, and I am a virtual farmer in my spare time. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this episode here. The corn harvest is done as far as chaff. I think we've got enough to to last for a while anyways. I will go ahead and drive this back down to the main farm. And so my next challenge, as I drive the Challenger, is I'm going to look for, I've seen a mod, a silage compact roller, so I'm going to try to find that, see if that helps with compacting it a little bit better. And then obviously we need to tend to the animals, we need to do things like that. There's nothing that we can harvest today. All of our other crops are still basically one day away from being able to be harvested. So we will put this guy away. Well, he didn't even hardly get dirty, did he? We'll bring him over here and get one of the boys to go wash it. Anyway, so that took almost 2 hours to harvest that field, cut that chaff. Again, as I was saying earlier, it certainly made it a lot quicker when you have a course play to better assist you. There's just too much. There's too much downtime. You know, labor is too expensive for doing that, because while you're mucking around with the chaff, either compacting it or getting your tractor stuck or resetting it or whatever, you know, your hired help is just sitting there reading a book, and you're paying him while that's happening. Of course, you could go in and dismiss the hired worker each time that you transported the chaff over to the farm, but that's, you know, that's counterproductive as far as the gameplay goes, and sort of breaks immersion. But in any event, almost 2 hours to do that. And of course, I'm going to shorten this down to under an hour, so a lot of that will get cut out, just because you're not going to want to see me restart the game and reset the vehicle so many times. And maybe I'll get better at it, or maybe, you know, things will progress as far as updates that Giants put out to it. But I'm just curious. I mean, if you're harvesting large amounts of chaff, either at the BGA or on your at your dairy farm, sort of like I have just done, are you sort of experiencing a problem with the chaff and the silage compacting and all that kind of stuff as well? Again, I would think that this tractor would just do anything that you wanted it to do and not get stuck and not cause problems. But obviously, I was wrong. Either that, or I'm just seriously doing something wrong, which could be a combination of multiple factors, and that's okay. I accept that, because, you know, this is at least something that we don't do every single game day, so it's not going to completely cause the rest of my hair to fall out or turn gray. Those few strands that haven't turned gray already. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. When we do come back together for the next episode, we'll still be in day 4, and most likely we will be. And I will have compacted the silage and get it covered and get it in the fermentation process. And then we'll probably figure out what we're going to do with this field. Field 12, I think. Even though, here's sort of my thoughts. Even though we've got 2 grass fields, if I bring up the big map, we've got field 32, which we've already cut once and baled that for hay. And then I also planted field 19 in grass and have not yet harvested that. But I think that we need one big field, at least this season, that will give us some grass before winter time. So what I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about seeding field 12 in grass, and then that way, within a couple of game days, that grass should be ready to cut and bale, and that will give us a large amount of hay to get us through the rest of the fall, the winter, and the spring. Because I really, again, the number of bells, I think we got, I think we only got about I think I remember, I think it was 13 bells that we got um, off of field 32, 13 bells. And it's not even ready to cut and bell today. It's still growing. And so I think trying to do that 13, 12, 13 bells at a time, I wouldn't think that we would get much more than that out of field 19. Actually, I think we'd get less than 13 bells. And I think what I'm going to do is just we'll plant field 12 in grass, and then obviously cut that, bale it, and then we'll probably cultivate that and then turn that back into another cornfield for springtime. So I think we can get a grass harvest in between now where we are in sort of July and get that done before winter time. At least that's my plan. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Please come back. Please like. Please leave comments. As long as they're constructive, I don't mind. I don't mind any criticism. If you've seen that I have blatantly done something wrong, please let me know. As long as it's constructive, I'm okay with negative criticism, with help. God, we all need help, right? Um, but as long as it's constructive, I don't mind. I don't want hateful stuff. If you're gonna hate on me, which thankfully nobody has as of yet, but if you're gonna do that, then please don't even. As as my mother always told me, if you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. And I'm not saying that, if I'm doing something wrong, please tell me. I'm not going to take offense to that as long as it's in a constructive nature. Just don't hate on me, okay? I appreciate that. Anyway, thank you all so much. Today, this is the morning of Thanksgiving, Thursday. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. My wife is still sound asleep, and I'm going to be going upstairs here in about 30 minutes or so and get the eggs on the stove top, making deviled eggs, get the turkey in the oven. I don't know if I will get this edited and get this uploaded for tomorrow, for Friday. That would be the 25th of November, or if it will just wait until and come out either over the weekend or maybe even early next week. I'm not sure. It's a holiday weekend, and family comes first. But it was quiet in the house, and I've been up since about 5:30, and yeah, that just the bladder is the best alarm clock, right? Anyone that's over about 45, 50 years old will understand what I'm saying. So thank you so much for watching. If it's Thanksgiving, if you live in the U.S., if it's Thanksgiving, I hope that you've enjoyed that holiday, and I hope you've been able to spend that with some family and some friends. Hope your teams won, whether they be the professional NFL or college, or if you're other sports, NHL, basketball, whatever the case may be. And hope maybe you got some movie time in. I hope that the wife didn't drag you out on Friday morning, Black Friday, for those 4 a.m. shopping deals. I think my wife did that one time. Of course, I'll tell you just this story, take about 30 seconds or so. As you know, if you've watched my videos, you know that she moved here from the UK. She's from Belgium. So she moved here from the UK after she had lived in the UK for about a dozen years. And of course, Thanksgiving was completely new to her. And so was the whole Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all of that kind of stuff. Um, and so she had her friends after she moved here. Her friends were like, "Yeah, we get up early on Friday morning after Thanksgiving. The deals are on at these stores. You got to be there about 4 o'clock in the morning." And she did that one time, and thankfully that was the one time that it got it out of her system, and she has vowed never, ever, ever to do that again. And of course, I learned that lesson a long time ago. I tried to tell her, but I sort of thought, something, let her experience this for herself, and that way she'll experience it, she'll believe it, she won't just be thinking that I'm trying to get out of getting up and going with her. So she experienced it, she hated it, it was a nightmare, and I think she was home by about 9 o'clock, and I think she went straight to bed again and said never again. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you again very soon. God bless you all. Bye-bye.